Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchtime Shares with me, Kim Britz, leading the charge with insights, information, and ultimately effective results. Joining me today is marketing and leadership segment, the wonderful and always available Craig Paisley.
These rather flattering intros. Thank you for that. Do appreciate it. How's your week been?
It's been a busy one. Working with some of the leadership schools with a whole new project that we're doing, and touching on some difficult conversations, but and poking the bear a little bit with some people, but necessary conversations. And after the fact, having some really nice insights and processes and procedures that they want to actually implement. How about you? How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been good. It's busy. I'm waiting, fingers crossed, for a big proposal, hopefully to be signed off tomorrow. That'll see at least the next 2 months worth of good, intense delivery. A good client business meeting that I've just come back from. It's the young, energized business that wants to shoot the lights out, and they've just got this beautiful 5-year plan that they're working towards. And when they get it right, they're going to make a significant difference in the lives of the people that work with them and to the economy. Phenomenal.
Amazing, yeah. Craig, so keep us informed what's with that, because that sounds interesting. But for today's show, Craig, what do we have up for grabs today?
So, Kevin, last week we wrapped up our 2-part series that focused on the McKinsey quarterly article titled "Warning: Upgrade Your Personal Operating Model." And we're covering a new topic today that is focusing on something which I know you're going to appreciate, that being entrepreneurship, and particularly in light of the background show that we're working on. The article was written by Brian Eastwood, and it is titled "A Strategic Playbook for Entrepreneurs: 4 Paths to Success." The article was published as recently as the 5th of March, Kevin, this year. And I came across the article on MIT Sloan.mit.edu in the Ideas Made to Matter Entrepreneurship section.
And Craig, I think just as we go into this conversation, I think feedback is, especially in the entrepreneur space, is not criticism. It's absolutely an opportunity for growth. So if people are listening to this and they're leaning into entrepreneurship, lean into the feedback. Let it irritate you and hurt for a minute. Get over it and change. And it's so important. So what does the playbook tell entrepreneurs about those 4 paths to success, Craig?
Kevin, before getting into the detail of the framework, I just want to clarify that while the article was written by Brian Eastwood, the article actually stems from more than 2 decades of academic research, which was conducted by Erin L. Scott and Scott Stern, 2 individuals who've been teaching strategy for startups from idea to impact at MIT Sloan Executive Education courses. And they're there to help entrepreneurs make the right decisions for their early stage businesses. The research covered well over a few thousand companies and brought in participation from some of the MIT students, with the findings leading to, and I'm going to quote now, the development of a systematic approach for startup leaders that is now laid out in a new textbook, Entrepreneurship, Choice and Strategy. The textbook was co-authored with Joshua Gans at the University of Toronto. So, Kevin, with that reference point in place, I think it's important that we unpack the 4 paths to success framework. And the article opens with a really important statement, and that it's generally accepted that something like 75% of startups fail to reach an exit. And for all businesses, the exit is one of the most important things. You take a great business idea, you bring it to the market, and you get to understand where your exit point is going to be and what value you can drive into the business so that you can extract value down the line. And while many factors come into play, from running out of cash to falling short of the competition, the biggest challenge for startups is arguably the struggle to achieve product market fit and find the right path to success. So 2 key concepts there: product market fit, and the second concept being the right path to success. Charles Scott, again one of the authors, goes on to note that the choice is at the core of entrepreneurship. There's been an incredible push to provide actionable frameworks that empower entrepreneurs to navigate their core choices and build the type of company they want to build. And those 2 paragraphs being repeated here just emphasize the importance around understanding how to take the advice, understand what that path to success is, and understand what the true idea of the company is.
So can you describe each of the four parts to success in a bit more detail, correct?
Yeah, Kevin, yes. I'm going to take two approaches in addressing this question. So firstly, I want to reference the article directly on those particular paths to success. But I've also then gone and looked at some other reference points to the definitions described around the likes of, obviously intellectual property, architectural value chain, and disruption. And I want to unpack some of those in a bit more detail to give supporting reference points as to how to enable those particular four paths to success. So the framework describes four different strategic routes to commercialization, Kevin, and these are categorized around two-dimensional axes. One is oriented towards incumbents, which is about collaborative versus on the horizontal axis, and the focus of investment, which is execution versus control, which is on the vertical axis. And these are laid out in a really easy to understand chart contained in the report. But the supporting explanation to the chart notes the four distinct trajectories or possible paths to success exist for any given idea. And while some choices may orientate the business venture more towards that competition and collaboration stage, other choices require the venture to invest more in execution than control. And it's really important to understand which of those quadrants that one needs to direct the business idea into.
Yeah, and I think what's nice about having a quadrant and some kind of measurement to go by is it creates a bit of structure, and it gives you some kind of formulates where you lean towards and what feels more like the sweet spot for you. Because sometimes it becomes quite muddled and blurry in your head, but when you have a structure to see in a visual format, it changes how you act and engage.
And that's why understanding the four principles is really important. The perfect segue into that, where looking at quadrant one, which is intellectual property, this is sitting at the top left quadrant. Intellectual property emphasizes idea generation, retains control of startups' products, and aims to achieve growth by creating value for existing customers of a partner. Architectural, which is the second quadrant sitting at the top right of the grid, the space where most businesses aim for. If you're looking at a BCG type model, you want to be heading into the top right hand quadrant. Architectural is about builds and controls a novel value chain for new customers and succeeds by meeting a specific need for each stakeholder in the value chain. So again, different concepts coming out there. Novel value chain, talking about new customers in this instance, and about meeting specific needs for stakeholders in the value chain. Then we have the value chain itself. That quadrant is sitting in the bottom left quadrant. This is about building and executing specialized products and services within a partner's organization's existing value chain in a model similar to consulting. It's worth noting that, as I mentioned earlier, the BCG type grid framework really is the sweet spot as being in the top right-hand corner, ideal position for entrepreneurs. This strategy delivers value for existing customers of a partner organization and builds specialized functional capabilities within that partner's value chain through the likes of collaboration and execution. And finally, referencing disruption, and again, as a reminder, bottom right-hand quadrant, this strategy creates value for new customers who are poorly served by current offerings and orients the company towards competition and execution. And again, both quadrants that are sitting on the right-hand side are moving towards competition and execution, and those on the left are specialized.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what's, I think what I'm noticing just from putting it in these quadrants is it's so easy to want to be everything for everyone and be disruptive, but also creating existing solutions for people that you currently work with. When you start defining it exactly to that point, it gives you a better, clearer picture of what is it that you actually be wanting to do and where is that for you as a business.
And Kevin, sorry, just to add to that point, is understanding the nature of the space that you're going to play in, because is it a business around collaboration? Is it a business around competing? Because those are the two opposite ends of the horizontal spectrum, and that fundamentally different approach to the nature of how you build your business and what the business offers. Or is it a business of control and execution? And in the same way, in the horizontal axis, two fundamentally different approaches to the way you build your business and the way you actually operate your business. So if you think of the product that you deliver, you very much around that intellectual property quadrant. So that is absolutely leaning into the collaboration spectrum, but there's a certain locus of control that's required in that space as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig, so how do entrepreneurs know which strategy is the right one to do? And exactly.
There we go. It's a good question, but it's a really simple answer, Kevin. As the article notes, that entrepreneurs should test two strategies and then choose one, with the authors recommending the following. So make educated choices as an entrepreneur. Adopt a sequential learning process known as test two, choose one for the four strategies within the compass. This is a systematic process where entrepreneurs consider multiple strategic initiatives and then identify at least two that are commercially viable before choosing just one. The intellectual property and architectural strategies are worth testing for entrepreneurs who prefer to put in the work developing and maintaining proprietary technology, whereas the value chain and disruptor approaches are definitely working better for leaders who want to look to execute quickly.
Craig, I think that's a fantastic idea, because there's almost a sentiment of you should be having fun as much as it's a stressful opportunity, and it can stress you out. Part of this point is, how about testing a strategy and see if this is working, and if it's not, you have a second one to choose. But what it does do is, there's a philosophy that a well-known YouTuber says, when you know what not to choose, you know what it is you want and what you want to choose.
Yes.
There's a good contrast in having two ideas or two strategies to be, this is working, this is not working, and which one am I? Because then you start finding that sweet spot. I love that.
Kevin. So starting with path one, intellectual property, Investopedia notes that intellectual property is a broad, categorical description of a set of intangible assets that are owned by a company or individual. It's legally protected from outside use or implementation without consent. An intangible asset is a non-physical asset. And I spoke to you about you very much playing in that intellectual property space. That's a clear definition of what you offer. So the concept of intellectual property relates to the fact that certain products or human intellect should be afforded the same protective rights that apply to physical property, which is obviously called tangible assets. And most developed economies have legal measures in place to protect both intangible and tangible assets and properties, Kevin. The key takeaway in this definition is that intellectual property is the umbrella term for a set of intangible assets or assets that aren't physical in nature. Intellectual property is owned and legally protected from outside use or implementation by a person or a company without consent. It can consist of many types of assets, including the likes of trademarks, patents, and copyrights. And intellectual property infringement occurs when a third party engages in the unauthorized use of that particular asset. Legal protection for most intellectual properties expire for some period of time, but they can last forever for some particular industry types or brands.
Yeah, and Craig, just from knowing that it's intellectual property, sometimes it's very difficult to track how people use this intellectual property. But very often, once depending on how you put it out there and put it into public domain, your name is synonymously attached to that.
What I love about the Investopedia examples and definitions, Kevin, it just brings another simple layer to folk who may be intimidated by the bigness of what intellectual property theoretically represents, and where you really get to understand, unpacking it in simple definitions like this, it takes that sort of intimidation, fear factor away. And that's what I love about all four of the paths being described in the way we're going to discuss today. So moving to path two, which is architectural, Investopedia references building value for customers as a description to this path. And building value for customers is really what you want to be doing at the end of the day with any product or service that you create or deliver. And the key steps in building value for customers are listed as follows. So firstly, understand customers' needs and preferences, then offer high quality products and services, most definitely provide excellent customer service, create that strong brand experience, moving into the value-based pricing, price based on the perceived value, and then definitely focus on customer retention. And the three takeaways on path two, which is architectural, is understand your target audience, craft that compelling value proposition, and then most importantly, deliver on your promise.
Yeah, and it just gives you a nice, thorough understanding of if you falling into this quadrant, how it sort of segments you into building value for customers. So it starts really defining what is my offering. I love it.
So if you really get to define that compelling value proposition as accurately and succinctly as possible into all the subsegments of the target audience that you're aiming for, and you deliver on your promise, you're immediately going to achieve delivering, at least building value for your customers.
Yeah.
Moving to part 3, which is value chain. And I think this could become the most difficult, complex, intimidating part here, because there are multiple layers to the value chain. And the value chain, according to Investopedia, is the full range of activities that are needed to create a product or service. And the value chain is made up of a series of consecutive steps that go into the creation of a finished product, from its initial design to its arrival at a customer's door or delivery over the shelf in store. And the chain identifies each step in that particular process in which value is added, including sourcing, manufacturing, marketing, all of those stages through to production of the product. Kevin, a company conducts a value chain analysis by evaluating the detailed procedures involved in each of those steps that I mentioned. And the purpose of the value chain analysis is to increase product efficiency so that a company can deliver maximum value for the least possible cost. And as I mentioned, there are multiple components. So the 5 components of the value chain consist of 5 primary activities and 4 secondary activities. And the 5 primary activities are noted as inbound operations of logistics, and this particular property focuses on including procedures for converting raw materials into a finished product. The second primary activity is about outbound logistics, and this activity is about distribution and delivering a final product to the customer. The third primary activity is marketing and sales proposition. This includes strategies to enhance the visibility and target the appropriate customer bases, such as advertising, promotion, and pricing. The fourth activity is service, and includes programs to maintain products and enhance the customer experience, like customer service, maintenance, repairs, refunds, and exchanges, Kevin. Then moving to the role of our supporting or secondary activities, the focus here is to help the primary activity be more efficient. And the 4 secondary activities are noted as procurement and purchasing. This is about how a company maintains its raw materials, looking at the social impact, the sustainability aspects. The second aspect of the secondary activity is human resource management. This is about hiring and retaining employees who will fulfill the firm's strategy and help design, market, and sell the product. The third is technological development, and this is used at a firm's research and development stage, like designing and developing manufacturing techniques and automation processes. And then the final point here is the company infrastructure, which includes company systems and the composition of its management team, such as the planning, accounting, finance, and quality control divisions, Kevin. The key takeaway points on our focus around path 3, which is value chain, is a step-by-step business model for transforming a product or service from idea to reality. The value chain helps increase a business's efficiency so the business can deliver the most value for the least possible cost. The end goal of the value chain is to create a competitive advantage for a company by increasing productivity while keeping costs reasonable. Value chain theory analyzes the firm's 5 primary activities and 4 support activities. And then, this is a reminder, the value chain component is in the bottom left quadrant, which is about collaboration, but it's also very much around execution.
But what I find interesting about as you're speaking through it, and I'm just thinking, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are starting out and you're not 100% sure what it is you wanting to do or where you fit into your value proposition or your strategy, for example, I think what's beautiful about unpacking it to this degree is it's not as complicated as you think. But if you can go through it, see, okay, this fits this box, this fits this box, go, okay, this these are the questions I should be asking around this, about what it is I'm trying to start here. And by doing that, you quickly get to, okay, yeah, I'm falling into this category, and now I have more clarity on what my next step should be. So although it sounds, when you listen to it, it's breaking it down into, because when you look at IP, architectural value chain disruption, it almost sounds foreign for people starting out as entrepreneurs. But when you go and you listen to it in detail and you tick those boxes, where am I fitting into this and what is applicable? It's not as complicated. It's a bit of a thinking process.
Again, if you understand the concept, primary activities, inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, service, each of those really allows you to then build the capacity of the organization to enable that. It's the layer of the blueprints to bring the people, the mechanics, the technologies, et cetera, into the organization as well, Kevin. Moving to our final path 4, probably one of the exciting ones for me is the disruption space. And if you're looking at the model again, it's in the bottom right-hand quadrant. Disruption is very much around the competing spectrum, and it's absolutely around execution, Kevin. In business, a disruption strategy involves identifying and leveraging technologies, products, or services to make them easier to use or access and available to a much larger non-targeted market, effectively changing common demands are met. The Investopedia content also references the concept of disruptive innovation, which refers to the innovation that transforms expensive or highly sophisticated products or services previously accessible only to a high-end or more skilled segment of consumers to those that are more affordable and accessible to a broader population. This transformation disrupts the market by displacing long-standing established competitors. And that's definitely a place that many organizations and brands are wanting to play in. So taking a quick look at 3 types of disruption in this particular strategy space. First is strategic disruption, which involves finding smarter ways to put the target market on its head by changing the ways common demands are met. Then new market disruption. This involves creating new market segments altogether, while low-end disruption pushes the incumbents out of the low end of the existing market. Then you get a third area of focus, which is demographic disruption, and shifts in demographics such as changes in population size, age, disruption, or income levels creates market disruption. Most definitely provide excellent customer service, create that strong brand experience, moving into the value-based pricing, price based on the perceived value, and then definitely focus on customer retention. And the 3 takeaways on path 2, which is architectural, is understand your target audience, craft that compelling value proposition, and then most importantly, deliver on your promise.
Yeah, and it just gives you a nice, thorough understanding of, if you falling into this quadrant, how it sort of segments you into building value for customers. So it starts really defining what is my offering. I love it. Absolutely. Great. So after going through your 4 segments, 4 areas, how do entrepreneurs know which strategy is the right one to choose? Because
Kevin is going to go.
But what I find interesting about, as you're speaking through it, and I'm just thinking, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are starting out and you're not 100% sure what it is you wanting to do or where you fit into your value proposition or your strategy, for example, I think what's beautiful about unpacking it to this degree is it's not as complicated as you think. But if you can go through it, see, okay, this fits this box, this fits this box, go, okay, these are the questions I should be asking around this, about what it is I'm trying to start here. And by doing that, you quickly get to, okay, yeah, I'm falling into this category, and now I have more clarity on what my next step should be. So although it sounds, when you listen to it, it's breaking it down into, because when you look at IP, architectural value chain disruption, it almost sounds foreign for people starting out as entrepreneurs. But when you go and you listen to it in detail and you tick those boxes, where am I fitting into this and what is applicable? It's not as complicated. It's a bit of a thinking process. I love it. Craig, thank you for today. And guys, if you want to share the link, and we will share that link in the description boxes below. Please tune in and like and share. Guys, every Wednesday and Thursday for myself and Craig. Have a fantastic week. Craig, thank you for today. And I will chat to you next week.
Yeah, Kevin, looking forward to it. Thanks a lot.
Just for now, bye.